Mandy, stay with us as we have another big story developing out of London. A UK court is all set to announce the judgment in the Vijay Mallya extradition case today. A joint team of India's premier investigation agency, the Central Bureau of Investigation and the Enforcement Directorate, led by CBI Joint Director A. Sai Manohar, is in UK. The 62-year-old former Kingfisher Airlines chief is wanted in India for alleged fraud and money laundering, amounting to more than $1.2 billion. He has been on bail since his arrest on extradition warrants in April last year. Mallya has contested his extradition on the grounds that the case against him is politically motivated and the loans he has been accused of defaulting was sought to keep his now defunct airline afloat. In his recent Twitter post, Mallya offered to pay 100% principal amount to the banks. In the case extradition does not go through, India would have to wait 14 days to file leave and appeal before a higher court seeking permission to appeal against a decision not to extradite Mallya. If the court decides to extradite him, Mallya could still file an appeal. For now, if the judgment goes ahead as scheduled on Monday, it will mark a significant point in a high-profile extradition trial that has lasted more than a year. Meanwhile, here's a look at some of the cases for which the king of good times has been charged. IDBI bank loan default case, ED money laundering charge, service tax evasion case, SFIO probe into financial irregularities, diversion of employee provident fund, Airports Authority of India's check bouncing case, and non-payment of TDS. And I'm joined by Mandy Clark is with me on this issue. So Mandy, a lot of hopes in India that this will finally set the bench or a standard for those who have been abusing liberal visa rules in developed economies. For the rich.
Yeah, certainly. Certainly, this is really seen as landmark cake. I'm already outside Westminster Magistrates Court. He's only really due to come in another hour. We are expecting the verdict, but as you rightly point out, likely both sides, depending on how she decides, the judge, will likely appeal. What's always a bit interesting about Vijay Mallya, he tends, for the last couple of times, we've been covering this court case, as you remember, for over a year now. Starting for the first 6 months, he never said anything. More and more recently, he's been outspoken about his desire to pay back. And as you mentioned, he had that tweet today. So it'll be interesting to see if he says anything going into court. Really, his message when he talks to the media is to the Indian government. He's looking for concessions. I think he's rather sick of the court cases. He's looking for a solution. So we'll see what the verdict comes back with. A large part of the argument of the defense, what he's been saying is he cannot return because of jail conditions. So it will all kind of hinge on the evidence provided by the government of India.
So in case the decision goes against the Indian government, how long you think that the matter can stretch legally when it goes to the higher courts in UK?
It can stretch for a while, but it probably likely another year. So then there's the appeal court. They won't need as much evidence as they required, obviously, for this prima facie case. If it falls down in the appeals court, then there's, of course, the Supreme Court, and they only need a day to decide, but it's just getting that time in court. So that's how it stretches on. And if the Supreme Court, well, if Britain is still in the European Courts of Justice, it can go up to there. If they're not, it might just end at the Supreme Court. But we are expecting that this probably won't be the last court case. Either side will likely appeal.
Thank you, Mandy. Thank you so much for joining us from London on this story.